Welcome to the studio. This is Adam, the first man, and today we are going to make a mountain pendant with an October birthstone in it. This one was a custom order on my website. Someone saw it and they thought, I really need to have that as a gift. So I am melting some silver and we're going to pour it right into this mold. There's something extremely satisfying about pouring molten metal into a mold. And there it is. It's just a little block. It doesn't look like much now, but just wait till the end of the video, guys. So we're going to take and clean this up and then start putting it through our rolling mill so we get the desired dimensions and thickness. Now, I struggle turning this rolling mill a little bit because, we're compressing metal. So, of course, it's going to be tough. But it's extremely satisfying and, gives you a little bit of a workout pushing it through here. So each time I incrementally decrease the size between the rollers to make it thinner and thinner as I go because it was too thick for this pendant. So as we go, I'm going to go through a few different times and then eventually we're going to need to anneal it because it gets a little too hard to keep going through the rollers. That's what we're doing right here. What we do is get kind of a bushy flame and we're going to heat up the silver until it turns to like a dull red color. And we're going to hang out there for, anywhere from 15 seconds to a minute. And then we'll quench it in water. And that will soften the metal, also known as anneal it. And that way we can go through the rolling mill again and again without it cracking. If you do not do this, the material will get work hardened and brittle and start cracking on you. So it's essential to anneal the piece. And then we'll go through the rolling mill again. Just, we're going to keep going until we get to the desired thickness. It only takes a few more times through here, and then we'll be at the right thickness for this pendant. But these pendants are all handmade individually, one piece at a time. So all the things on my website, all the jewelry I produce is made by me, one man, and by hand. So everything you see, my hand is touched. And it takes a while to make each piece. And that's what I love about it, actually. It has the human touch to every piece of jewelry I make. We're just going to flatten this thing out because it was a little bit out of whack from going through the rolling mill. And then we're going to prep it for stamping. And here's the stamp we're going to be using. It's an old railroad spike that I carved a mountain into. And that will be our stamp once this is prepared. Now, this is Scotch-Brite. It's the red pad. And I use that to clean up all the fire scale, all that dark stuff off the silver. And we're going to scribe a line and make a square cut. And that way we have the start of our pendant. We need a square pendant, so we have to ensure that we get it square, right? For the cutting process, I'm going to take out this bench pin and get all the dust out. And I'm going to insert this one, which is a little better for cutting. I can get a better hold of it. It's a little more flat. It just has that big V in it. And therefore, I can cut a little bit better on this one. And, there's nothing special about this. We're just cutting this line so we get a pretty straight edge. But as any time when I saw, I can't quite cut exactly straight, so we'll have to file that edge so it's nice and square once we're done cutting it. And, of course, this is all sped up for time purposes. And that little piece of silver, we'll save that for another project. We're squaring it up with a barrette file right here. And then we'll move on to the next thing, which is I'm taking my dividers and I'm checking out how wide it is because I want that to be my length because we're going square here. We're going to scribe a line and then cut this piece too. So there we go. We're cutting it. And we'll do the same thing once we get this cut as we'll square off the end with the file. And there we have our pretty square piece. It's not exact. We'll try and fix that with our file, but I couldn't hang on to this thing. So I decided we're going to go over to the wheel and we're going to grind this thing. But then it got too hot and it was literally burning my fingers. So I put on these leather gloves we're going to knock the corners off too. So it's nice and round on the corners and square all around. And here I'm lining up the mountain stamp right where I want it. It takes a little bit of trial and error to figure out exactly where these go. And that's why it takes me a little while to line it up. Once I do, we'll give it a blow with the mallet, or I should say tiny sledgehammer. And then I'll line it up again, hit it again. And I think I did it actually 4 times in order to get the impression that I wanted. I just showed you 2 here. And there are the mountains impressed into our silver piece. The next thing we're going to do is let's put our old bench pin back in. We're going to drill a hole. So we're going to put this in, and then I will proceed to mark where we want to drill the hole. But we actually didn't drill it. I decided to go with this method. And this is literally forging the hole with a punch. So I picked the spot, we're hitting it with the hammer and then flipping it over on the other side, and literally a little plug of silver comes out. And it gives it a unique look on the top, right where the ring will go through for the chain. And you'll see it in a second here, but I'm cleaning up the edges from that process. And it's a cool blacksmithing technique that I learned from another jeweler about probably 4 years ago. But you know what? We have some sharp edges. So we're going to go ahead and take our file and get the sharp edges off of this piece. There's nothing worse than sharp edges on jewelry. It tends to scratch, catch on clothing, and it's just uncomfortable. So we go ahead and do that. And then we're going to stamp sterling on the back, S-T-E-R, because legally I am supposed to mark what this material is. So it is sterling silver. It's marked on the back of this pendant. So anyone who looks at it in the future knows what material it's made out of. After the stamping, we're going to slide our ring through here and close it up. That's what the chain will go through, and that will take the most wear out of any piece on this pendant. That's why I always solder these shut. But before we do that, we have to put it in the ultrasonic cleaner, and we have to make sure that solder joint is nice and clean so the solder wants to flow directly into that seam. Now, when the solder flows, it's called capillary action. It's where the liquid metal flows into the seam. It pulls itself in. It's a really unique process, actually, when you do it over and over again. Once that's done, let's darken it. So this will make the mountains come alive. It doesn't look like it now, but once we highlight them, this is what makes the mountains look great on this pendant. We're going to go back to the Scotch-Brite pad, and we're going to highlight all of the raised areas on this pendant. So then you can see the mountains, the background is darkened, and the face of the pendant is a brush finish with the Scotch-Brite pad. I do the same thing to the back, and on the back I leave it kind of rough. You can see the marks from the anvil on the back of the pendant. That way you know it's handmade. When I did the process of choosing a spot for this gem, I always pick above the mountain, upper right-hand corner. That's just my preferred placement for these. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just lining it up, seeing where I want the gem to go. And I'm going to use the center punch so I have a little dimple where I can start to drill, and then after that start setting the gem. This didn't go as planned. My automatic center punch is malfunctioning. It's not actually snapping. When you depress it, it's supposed to be spring-loaded and snap. So I had to resort to my hammer. And I had to hold my hammer sideways because my camera was set up in this whole scenario. Anyway, I got it done. I got the little dimple there. And then I proceeded to drill holes a little bit larger and larger. And here is the setting burr. This is the exact same diameter as that little pink tourmaline that we're going to be setting. And once I have the hole drilled, I clean up the back. And I'll go ahead and pop the gem in there to make sure it has a nice fit. And then I'll permanently set it in place. The setting is definitely the most delicate part of this whole process in jewelry making. Some gems can take a lot of pressure, some cannot. And it's so important not to touch the actual stone with your tools because they can get scratched. They can also chip. They can also break. Now let's move on to the chain. This is a sterling silver rolo chain. They come with this spring ring. I hate these things. They are no good. Let's ditch this. And let's put a proper clasp on this chain. So I try to get them with the lobster clasp in place already. This one didn't have it, so I had to add my own. So I took the old jump ring off, and we're going to solder the ring shut again on this lobster clasp so it's not going to go anywhere. And then you have a robust clasp that you know is not going to break. These things are awesome. I highly recommend anyone who has a chain, you got to have a lobster clasp. Mountains are a rugged landscape. They capture the hearts of explorers, outdoor enthusiasts, hunters, fishermen, hikers. Mountains just have something about them that is unique, and it calls to the hearts of men to come and explore. So that's what this pendant's all about. Explore the mountains, and this one has a special birthstone.